let's fast forward a little bit in the story. Now, Elliot Sadler, who's next up for the sponsorship?
So Elliot Sadler, then we bring on AJ Allmendinger, the Dinger.
Okay.
Right? So
the Dinger.
AJ takes over for Elliot. What a guy.
And what race team is Dinger a part of?
Well, so it wound up being Richard Petty Motorsports. All right. So different iterations over time, just from the Elliot Sadler years and then into, but the Petty family wound up buying into Ray Evernham, and it was Gillette Evernham, and next thing you know, it's Gillette Evernham. It's Petty Enterprise. It went from Richard Petty Motorsports. That's what it was. Yes. So not only am I now interacting with NASCAR drivers, I get the opportunity to interact with the king, Richard Petty himself.
Dude, you went from working retail, grinding, hustling, 12 plus hours a day on your feet, stocking shelves, shaking hands.
Yeah.
Performancing people in the back rooms of stuff, getting the call from the bullpen up to the major leagues, to you are at the top of NASCAR.
Right. I mean,
how, that's that is unbelievable. You are at the mecca of marketing in NASCAR, Paul. Sometimes I don't think you recognize yourself that you were you went to the mecca. You made by the fate. You're the mecca of marketing for NASCAR.
Yeah, there's times, Zach, and again, I think you know me well enough where I am so grateful for these opportunities. But there are times where I will, after I do whatever it is, I will be on a plane, or I'll be in a car, or I'll be sitting there thinking to myself, and I go, I can't believe that I just did that, or that I just met
right.
I'm just this small town guy from Phillips, Wisconsin, original, and wound up in Minneapolis, and look at the trajectory. And now I'm pinching myself going, I just spent an entire day with Richard Petty flying to LA to meet Jay Leno. And there's, that's a whole story unto itself. Right. So I can't, even now, still at times, I have to stop and pinch myself and go, I can't believe the world I'm in, and that I've been able to
so cool
do this stuff. Right.
Man, it's one of those things that when I talk about the level of impact that you've had on my career, in the coaching and the mentorship that you've continued to have on me, even to this day, and I reach out to you and, hey, what about this, and the things that you still help me with to this day. And we don't need to go into any of that, but I just want to say, man, you are a leader among leaders. And when we talk about the Leaders Lead platform, I can't think of anyone I'm more proud to have on this. I've had a couple really profound leaders on here. Some that you hit the top rung of the people that I'm excited about having on this platform, and I'm honored to have on here. And let me break that down of why. So you're now Richard Petty Motorsports, AJ Allmendinger. We're at about 2009-ish, 2008, somewhere in that time frame. I get sent to Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm working at Best Buy corporate, and 2009 hits. I get deployed. I come home. It's 2010, and I get a call from you and Doug Selly and Todd Larson.
Yeah, remember them well.
You guys pull me into a meeting room, and you're like, "Hey, we want to thank you for your service." And I'm like, "You're welcome." And you're like, "No, we want to thank you." And I'm like, "Okay." And you're like, we want to like actually thank you.
Yeah.
And you said, we want to send you to um, an experience that you can't buy.
Right.
We want to send you to an all exclusive NASCAR experience. And I'm like, no way. Because I love racing.
Right.
And I still get goosebumps to this day. Like I just got goosebumps. Like I tell people I get goosebumps on the show. I really wish the camera was good enough to pick it up because I literally have goosebumps. And so I'm still humbled to this day to be able to have had that experience. Do you want to talk a little bit about it from your side, and then I'll tell my
Yeah.
side of the story.
Yeah. I mean, that was to me, that give back moment. Again, when I talk about what made me successful coming out of the store environment, you're a part of that, Zach. Like, it's not about, I can't make this happen without the people who work with me, right? So
There's a team of them too. So you got Donnie, you got Jamie,
oh
you
my
got
god,
Matt Smedick, you got you got all of those,
right? Like,
right?
right, just great people who I had the pleasure of bringing them up and seeing them continue their leadership paths, and it's still to this day, right? I still am connected to those folks. So to see you do what you did and to be able to take a moment and just say, hey, you know what? I've got the ability to give back to you something that is going to blow your mind. Because again, there's those, if I'm pinching myself going, I can't believe I just got to meet and do and talk with and spend the day and all that. What a great opportunity for me to share that with someone who helped me achieve success in the past. Right. And that's the fun in it for me, is being able to give back in that way. And then when you're there, seeing the reaction of what you're experiencing, because honestly, I experienced it the first time I walked through Texas Motor Speedway in this job and went, whoa, this is humbling. Like, I don't know, how am I going to do this job? Like, look at all this stuff. I don't know. You know, I talk a lot about crawl, walk, run in my career, and that was certainly crawling at that point, right? Learning, but also identifying that this is amazing and what a great opportunity to give back to someone who helped me achieve success along the way.
Yeah, it takes a village, right? And you know, the event that you sent me to has a little bit to do with that picture right behind you.
Yeah. So that,
You want to talk about that?
yeah, that is pride and joy. You know, I have a
I
lot of things in this office that you can't see on camera here that tell a story. There's almost everything in here that tells a story about the last 15 years. And that picture was pretty instrumental. So Best Buy had never won a race in the history of being in the sport. And you can see it's a green insignia car. AJ Allmendinger was our driver. I'm going to segue for a second there and pause on the green piece, if that's okay with you, because there's a story behind that.
Yeah,
So
go for it.
we were going into 2000, and I think it was 2000 and where was that? That was 2010. So
10.
we built the entire program to be Best Buy, and you know, it takes a lot to brand an entire program to go to market. You've got a huge 53-foot semi trailer that gets branded on the sides, fire suits. Like, you have to do all this stuff in the off season. They call it our off season, which means you work harder than you ever did before during the off season, because you have to get so much done. So when you go to Daytona, you're ready to go. So we had planned everything to be branded Best Buy blue, yellow tag. And then I get a phone call. This was like, man, I want to say this was right before Thanksgiving. I get the phone call and I go up to the CMO's office, and he's sitting there with the head of what do they call it? Best Buy Brands, the head of the private label. I
Yeah.
can't remember what they
You're,
called it, but private label.
it was, yep. I know his name. It'll come to me in a second.
So I'm sitting there in the office with these guys, and they said, "Hey, we want you to brand everything in 2010, this whole program, as Insignia, because Insignia was on a huge run at the time, and just kept gaining and gaining and gaining. Right? It was wasn't in its infancy, but those brands were really starting to take off, and they really didn't get any marketing money. So hey, let's use this, right? And I was like, that's a lot to ask of the race team right now to change, because we're pretty much done, and they're going to start wrapping and everything's getting done, blah blah blah. And they go, great, let's do it. Like, they just ignored my objection and said, let's do it. I said, all right, we'll get it done. So I called the race team, and everything was shifted to that insignia color and the brand and everything you see there. So the first race that I go to, I'm sitting in the hauler, AJ sitting on my over here, a couple other folks, the marketing team, a couple others, and in walks the king. It was cold out. I remember this day forever. It was cold out. He had on his cowboy hat. He had on this big black leather duster. I mean, he looked like he just came off the range, right? And he still had, it was cold, raining out. He had his sunglasses on, and he took 2 steps into the lounge area of the hauler, and hey, King, hey Richard, what's up? And he looks at me, and he looked around the room, and he lowered his sunglasses just a little bit, just enough to see his eyes, and he said, "Who in the hell picked the color of that race car and this hauler?" And I was like, everybody in the room pointed at this guy, because he goes, "Paul," and he went on to school me about why green was a bad color for NASCAR. It was unlucky, by the way, unlucky, and on and on and on, right? And it was one of those moments where I look back and I go, I just got schooled by Richard Petty for about 45 minutes on branding. I mean, he's the king. He's STP. He's the one who started all this stuff, right? About how we should make sure we're doing the right thing and all this. And again, it was just one of those pinch me moments of like, wow, right? Well, it worked out pretty good, wouldn't you say, Zach?
I sure think it did. Because that was one heck of a race to be at.
Yeah, so we brought you to Dover, Delaware. The Magic Mile. 1 mile track,
Yes.
concrete surface, fast. Doesn't look like it on TV, but man, when you're there, it is something else.
Yeah. I shouldn't tell you this real time live like this, but I couldn't resist. I just snapped a picture real quick of you and I sent it to Doug Sully.
Oh man. That's so cool.
And I said, Paul and I are recording for my podcast. And he said, very cool. And he goes, I have that print as well. Imagine that.
Very cool.
Because he can see your background. I had to just connect and bring in Doug because I love that guy dearly.
Yeah.
And so,
anyway,
so yeah, you guys.
Doug was my like, hey, Paul, I know you don't know jack about NASCAR, but I do. So he was my mentor when it came to NASCAR, right? Because I knew nothing. So Dover. So tell me what your experience was when we brought you that weekend, and then I'll talk about the race and the significance of that race.
So it was such a cool experience. So I get this ticket, right? And this ticket that I have to wear around my neck, and I think I still have it in like my I have like this thing of like cool moment collectibles that I have in my life, and some of them are right here, and I just have it. I haven't put it up here yet. I have something else here I'll talk about in just a second.
They call it a hot pass.
And
So you got a hot pass.
yeah, hot pass.
Okay.
And I get this hot pass, and I can take one other dude, and I took my buddy Brian Wills, who also is a Best Buy employee. And so Brian Wills and I go, and we go to the event, and we get this. They scan us this hot pass. They scan us. They're like, "Yeah, you guys can go anywhere you want." And I'm like, "Anywhere we want?" They're like, "Anywhere you want." And I'm like, I'm like, "No way." I'm like, "Can we go over there?" They're like, "No, you don't understand. Like, you can literally go anywhere you want." And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I'm the guy that will go like literally anywhere. They're like, yeah, you're the guy that can go anywhere you want, and you have the credentials to go anywhere you want. And I'm like, this means I can't get in trouble. And they're like, well, you can still get in trouble, but
you can.
And so I'm like, all right.
What?
Yeah. And I'm like, God, I'm like, Paul, did you really just give me that pass? And he's like, uh-huh. So we get it. We show up on Friday. I think it was Friday that we show up, and we're walking around, and we're in like where all the haulers are at. And we're walking down, I'm going to call it Hauler Row because I don't know the right thing where all the garages are at and the haulers.
The garage area.
The garage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Paul's going to keep me honest on all the right terms. You can tell who's more NASCAR now than the other. And it used to be the other way around. And we go down to the Best Buy Insignia hauler, and there's the king. And I'm like, I can't breathe. It's like, that's Richard Petty. Like, I literally can't breathe. And I'm like so excited. And like, there's like AJ Allmendinger, and I'm like, oh, hey, cool. I'm like, there's Richard Petty.
There's the king.
Yeah. And so AJ's getting ready to go do his qualifying. And Richard Petty invites me to go on top of the hauler to watch qualification of AJ Allmendinger with him on top of the hauler.
Right.
And I'm like, it's just he and I. And I'm like, dude, you can't buy that experience.
You can't.
It is unbelievable. And I'm like, dude, goosebumps just came back. Oh my God.
Actually,
and so,
down on myself. Same thing, right?
Oh my God. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like trying to figure out what's going on, and he's explaining it to me. We got earmuffs on, and he's got his iconic hat, and we're up there, and he's like telling me about it, like as much as he can talk over it, and I can hear it. He's like, we're watching this screen, and like we're standing on top of the hauler, and we're watching AJ and the others do their qualifying, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like, nothing gets better.
Yeah.
So we go down, and then what people may not understand about the significance of this weekend is this weekend in 2010 at Dover, Delaware, Richard Petty got inducted to NASCAR Hall of Fame.
That's right. Yep.
And so
there it is.
I'm shaking, but I'm gonna show this. So I got this commemorative limited edition to an exclusive, few people, very exclusive. I'm shaking.
Yeah, there it is.
And he signed and gave it to me. Right. On the weekend he went, and you like, for everyone who's ever doubted me that this is real, can you tell them it's real? And I got it that weekend.
It's absolutely 100% real. And the story behind it is 100% real.
And it is such a cool thing. And Paul, you helped make this happen for me, and it's something I'll never forget. The day of the race, before the race, I walked around the garage area. I watched, or I actually was part of the pre-race. I'm going to call it chalk talk in the hauler with AJ and the pit crew.
Yeah.
And had coffee with them in the hauler. I walked up and down the pit row, not pit row, but the garage area. And I got to meet a dude. By the way, if you can ever help me meet him again and talk to him, I'd love it to have like an actual further conversation. Kurt Busch. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, but that day I got to meet him for about 2.5 minutes. So when I was in Iraq, the guy that was on my team, Anthony Motter, sent him a flag that was flown in an F-16 over Iraq. And I said something and it caught his attention. And I got to meet Kurt for just a hot minute out of all the crowds of people back there. And he signed one of those placards for me to give to Anthony. And I'd like to continue that conversation if ever given the opportunity. But Kurt is such a good dude. Ton of respect for him. And then we went out to pit row, and I'm walking pit row, and I'm high-fiving all the drivers, and I'm getting to meet everybody coming out. Dude, I'm bawling with excitement, and like I can't, like, this can't be real. Like, normal people, humans don't get to have this experience. It's like only reporters and like the super rich. And like, and I'm walking around and like, holy crap, like I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with AJ
Right
as they're doing a flyover right next, like literally his shoulder's like right here.
Right on.
And the national anthem's going, and like we're watching S16s, I think it was 16s that day, fly over top of us as they're doing the national anthem. And I'm standing on pit row. Yeah. And it's an experience I will never forget. And the whole pay it forward, man, of like, what can I do to help others have positive experiences that serve outside of myself, and like the pay it forward to help the community and the drive to support things like this is it's stuck with me so much that day of like, how can I help others have awesome experiences because of it? And then, dude, to top it off, I'll let you tell the rest of this after this, but I got to watch the race that day from on top of pit row on the pit box.
That's right. Like
right it there. Doesn't get it. I sat on the pit box on pit row and watched NASCAR. And brother, I can't thank you enough for what that experience meant for me.
Yeah, I got goosebumps again, Zach.
And